Burner Network, ZINGOTV, channel 250 and 251. It's also on their Facebook and Twitter accounts, streaming live. And you can download the ZINGOTV and Burner apps through anywhere you can get apps, pretty much. Today I have two guests. I have comedian Sleazy E coming on a little later. He's going to sing us some wrestling songs. He's coming in all the way from Arkansas, home of Bill Clinton. And first, I have Great North Wrestling wrestler, the Bruiser, who is one of the longest running independent wrestlers in Ontario. Since I was a kid, I remember going to watch him when he used to have his own wrestling company. So how are you doing today, Bruiser? You now have your own YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I got the YouTube channel. I haven't been working on it as much, but yeah, it's almost like the Instagram right now is the bigger one I'm on. It's actually making me more money as far as my shirts and stuff go. So I've been pushing more on that, and now we have that new series going, Ottawa. So it's we'll see how that goes for the 10 series we made, and keep them busy though. Yes.
It's like a movies type series, right? It's like an acting series. You're acting.
Yeah. I've been told it's almost, I would look at it, not because I'm in it or anybody else is in it. It's almost like a Corner Gas or, Mark Kenny Boys. What do they call that there now?
Trailer Park Boys. I've seen a couple clips of it. I haven't watched the full thing yet.
Yeah.
I know Max Moskill is the one that's putting it together.
Yeah, we have 10 episodes done now. So
he's got a home improvement channel.
That's doing well. That's doing well too, man. That's up there. Was it 1 million subscribers? Some of that.
Like that. It's pretty. He's got his gold YouTube plaque. I know that.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool, eh? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hopefully, in the next year or two, I'll get there. But I don't think I could do home improvement. That's a little too not really my interest. But I know that's your main job. You've been doing construction all your life, haven't you?
Yeah, bricklayer, block layer, concrete counters. Basically everything does with masonry. Yeah, believe it or not, that's the actual main thing I'm back at doing again. The money by far is a lot better, and I've been doing that since I was 15 years old. In high school, in one door, out the other. My dad said, "Here's a trowel, get on the wall, man, and start laying. You don't want to go to school. This is where it's at," and I've been there ever since. And I'm happy that I'm actually a tradesman, and it's done me well. I can't complain.
And you're also a weightlifter, which is what your YouTube channel was all about. I know it has some other stuff too. You're commenting on stuff going on in the world, but you're actually pretty strong. I know I posted a video of you that you sent me on my The Hannibal TV channel of you doing 225 a ridiculous amount of times. What's your record for the 225 bench?
Okay, when I was 90, before we got like all the cell phones and all that crap we could film with, back in my day when I was 35, my best was 38 straight. But when I was 54, I actually did the 24 reps, and I just did one for 20. But I have an injury. But my actual PR best right now is about 365, 370 max for a double at very best, and I can rep with 225 comfortably for sets of 12s and 14s for 2-minute interval span. So it's not bad at 55 years old. So, I'm not the guy I was when I was 35, but I'm still putting in the work and getting it done.
And they've closed down the gyms here in Ontario up until I think January 26th.
Yes,
but I think you're training at one of your friends' house that has some weights, luckily for you.
Yeah, leg pressing and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's just that I think this pandemic is going to be around another good couple of years. And people are still getting sick with this needle thing here. But they got to start somewhere, right? And it's been a real bummer because it's put a crush on the old wrestling, and so now you just go to other things.
It has, and it sucks because before the first lockdown happened, I was very, very close to hitting 500 pounds bench again. Then in December, I came close again, and I was almost there. Then they locked us down again.
Yeah, it's tough because
it's like 10 years ago, so it sucks.
Yeah, it's tough because you get back. When I was working, even though I was training all the time in my buddy's basement, and he has a decent setup, it still took me 2 months after to get a gym to get myself back to where I was. And because you don't realize how much cardio, stamina, and strength you can lose by not having all those fancy machines that work all different parts of your body. You know yourself, we go to the same gym there. And, you know, and at that point, when you're on social media, everybody's expecting you always to be that individual, stepping up, pressing that weight and doing everything. And, you know, it's tough, you know. And for a while there, I was doing 500 push-ups a day. And then when I was doing curls, I have a lot of weights at home and that. I was doing like 35-pound dumbbells. And I was doing like 300-400 curls, you know what I mean, just to maintain the mass and keep the actual definition up and the volume, you know. It was tough. No, I'm not going to lie.
But people don't understand that aren't serious that you literally need thousands of pounds to maintain a certain level of muscle mass. You just can't do that in your basement. And I just bought a couple of 45-pound dumbbells that were around $300. So you can't really stock your whole house with this stuff either without spending a fortune. Then when gyms open back up, you're stuck with all this equipment.
Like these things, man, these things are gold. Even though it's a small one, they're gold. You know what I mean? If you got, I have a lot of friends say, oh, you know, can you have any gym weights? I said, dude, why weren't you buying weights when the pandemic was sort of lower and you could go and buy some shit and get stuff you need, and then you're asking me for steel? Like I bought like a leg press and a hack squat. I got a Smith machine now. I did not want to buy the stuff, but now I do have it. So when I actually get my house built next year, my tractor trailer will become my gym. You know, man, and it'll say the strong as F word on it and everything else, and that's where I'm going to go. And I'll actually have a full gym in there. But you're talking, you say though, thousands of dollars, thousands.
Yeah, and for me, there's too many distractions at home too. I'd rather leave the house,
exactly,
go to the gym and be around other serious people. As you know, the gym that we train at, there's a lot of serious people, and
yeah, there is.
Hold about 400, and even when they had the 50 regulation, people were signing up and not showing up. So
that's a drag.
30, 35 people in there. So it's unfortunate. But for your wrestling career, I don't even know this. Who trained you and how did you get into wrestling?
Oh, man. Well, when I first started, I'm not trying to badger anybody. I learned with a bunch of French guys. And when I was learning with them, okay, I got a lot of the basic stuff down and everything. But as I got more into it, I realized there had to be a lot more to wrestling and just bumping and doing suplexes and clotheslines. I mean, it got kind of crazy. So I got together with Dave Clayton, Dave Dalton, and when I got with him, he rerouted my mind a lot and got me organized a lot better. I mean, we don't always get along, but I can honestly say the guy's a good wrestler. He knows his stuff. We bumped heads a couple times. It is what it is. I don't take nothing away from his wrestling skills, because as time goes on, I realized something that he said, like every other indie guy, you're going to learn more actually on the road than what you've actually learned in the ring as you train and practice. As you said, 3-4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then you got to go to the gym. So that's basically where I learned a lot of my good, solid skills. And then in 1 year, I actually had a chance where I was wrestling down in Toronto, Hamilton, Buffalo, Boston, when you could cross the borders. And that year was 140. So I actually picked up a lot of good, you know, quality of time up and got time in the ring. And that time you didn't get paid a lot of money. So you got time in the ring. You know how it goes, man. You put your time in, people even look at you. And yeah, that's where I actually learned a lot of my basic stuff in the beginning, because, you know.
The sad part is, even though it's 25, 30 years later, the money on the indie scene is still the same, because wrestling's become less popular overall, unfortunately. And the crowds aren't as big on the indie shows as they were in the 90s. How was it over in the mid 90s when you were wrestling in Toronto and those type of places? Were the crowds decent?
Well, we had EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, one of the groups I worked with, and at the time he owned a roller skate derby place, so he had access to a big area. We wrestled like pretty much every weekend. On a bad weekend, he had 275 people. On a good weekend, he put 350, 400 average. So, you know, as an indie crowd, 400 people, 350 is not a bad bunch of people. And even 275 is not a bad crowd if you're loud. And so that's what we had. So every weekend, I went, you know yourself, you go to wrestling matches and sometimes you have 30 people and you're like, oh my God. You don't even want to go out there, but you got to go out there, put your best foot forward, get it done. And you know, hopefully those 30 people remember you or next guy or whatever. But in the 90s, medieval times, we had, for sure, medieval times, we'd have, I would say, anywhere from 1,500 people on the ice. And I would say maybe sometimes almost 5,000 people. You know what I mean? That there was that many people coming in. I remember, and you know.
When you say medieval times, for people that don't know, that was back in Toronto medieval times. They used to have wrestling shows where they have the medieval times shows now, still to this day, I think. And didn't you wrestle Sabu or something around then? Yeah,
Sabu he came on a card. Sabu, good old Sabu, God love him. When I first met Sabu, I was expecting, you know, like a guy 6'2", 225. You know, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, they had exaggerate your size and your weight. And good guy, I met him, and I got fortunate to play with him in the ring and practice a bit. And really, one of the guys hadn't showed up. I was going to be one of the main runs with him up there, which was kind of exciting because he seemed like a really cool dude. You know what I mean? So acrobatical. I was just going to be the powerhouse. He was going to be the speed at that time, right? Because he wasn't a big dude, and I could move him around at 245, 50 pounds comfortably. Because I was younger, I was a lot stronger. I was a lot more efficient in the ring because I was doing more wrestling at the time. And it's like everything else. You don't do enough of it, you will lose some of it. It's like kickboxing or any other sport, you know. Yeah, we had a lot of ECW guys come in there and had some really good. Even when we didn't have the ECW guys come in there, just a couple of good names, we still had 2,500 people show up. You know what I mean? And the crowd appreciated it. And those were days when people didn't mind paying $25, $50 a ticket on the floor. There wasn't an issue.
Now with all the TV channels and everything on YouTube, it's really harder to get people out. But we have had some good crowds over the years.
Yes. Oh, yes.
North Wrestling, you've been on a lot of our events. You wrestled Greg Valentine. You wrestled a lot of stars over the years. Do you want to talk about some of the big names you've been in there with?
Okay. I wrestled with Nikolai Volkov, Jamie Superfly Snuka, Dan Severn. Let me think, Tito Santana. We actually did a battle royal with the Nasty Boys way back, and it was EWF. And we actually had Bam Bam Bigelow come in and do a show. Like, we're talking years ago. This is before we didn't have all the cameras. Now everybody was filming and putting stuff on YouTube. So a lot of stuff has been lost, or there's people who have stuff. It just pops up here and there. You know, and I've even had times when I was going to be, the biggest time I was going to be wrestling in Ottawa was going to be, the hell was his name there now? I can't remember his name offhand. I just totally got a blank there. And I wanted me to work 7 minutes with him, and I got 4, and I actually said no to it, you know. And actually, then Lord Jacob Kane went in, which is Brett Farrell went in, and he's one that worked Ahmed Johnson, actually. And they wanted me to work him, and I said, you want to give me 4 minutes to get squashed, do the same thing? I actually said no to WWE. That's no word of bullshit. I said, no, 4 minutes and do the same thing? Let me give 7 minutes. Out of my exact words were, oh, he'll blow up. Well, I didn't bother. But yes, I've been on the backstage cards with Rougeau's on that, you know, sitting there. If you needed a spare guy, I was there a couple of times, yes. And but you know how it is with WWF at the time. It was just, you had to have something unique, how to even get in there. And it's not like they had to tough enough, strong enough. I wish they had had that way back when I first started. You know what I mean? And you could go, hell, I would have ran in there right away and tried, you know. And
I actually remember, I can confirm for anyone watching this, when I was a kid, you were backstage a couple times for WWE because I saw you hanging out around the back, and you would come out and give the fans that recognize you autographs. And I remember specifically in Hull, Quebec, back when they came there was a match between Just Incredible, who was Aldo Montoya at that time, and Carl LeDuc in the ring, and a bruiser chant started, and you stood up on the monkey bench, and everyone actually wanted to see you in the ring that night. So it was funny because there's 2 guys in the ring and they're chanting for the bruiser. Yeah. I remember I was signing the autographs, and well, let's be realistic, dude. I was selling autographs there. They were pissed. I'll tell you the story about that. I did an autograph with Undertaker at CD Warehouse back in the day. Remember CD Warehouse? Yeah. And by luck, F said, well, go there and do the autograph. And that's how I ended up there. And I do an autograph beside him, which was a big deal then, because when you started in the Indies, and not being totally green, but being there with a guy that he was a cool dude, man, and he actually got me backstage there with the WWF at the time, and I can't remember the fellow who was in the ring wrestling Carl LeDuc. I mean, I was told by, I think it was Joe LeDuc, we run a good show here, Bruiser, blah 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 blah, and you know, God rest his soul. But at the end of the day, man, I mean,
A high cross rollover. That's all you can fucking do in a ring with a guy who's wrestling. Are you kidding me?
Oh, just
And
want we want be careful of your language on
oh,
here.
sorry about that. My bad. But seriously, that's where it was at, and I didn't make a big issue with them. Who was I to make any issue with those people? You know, so you know, I think it was more of an insult when they started chanting. The whole crowd of about 3,000 or 4,000 people. I think they got the message. But I mean, it is what it is, and they're a hard fed to get in with, as you know yourself. And the background you have, man, you're an extremely good wrestler. And I've watched it before, and I thought, man, this guy's good. He shouldn't be being at this level, but you were there at times, like you know how indies are. You're going to get some fine, good wrestling with the indie shows, as just as good as the big Fed shows. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, you know, it is what it is.
What's some of the craziest stuff you've seen in the wrestling business over the years? Because you were around in the days when the indie shows got a lot wilder.
Oh, I see. I've seen guys fight with the crowds. I've seen people get in the ring, get kicked in the face, you know, doing a spot. Like you said, if you're going to do a spot with somebody, like you got to trust that guy with your life, right? Because one mistake and you can die. I mean, it's like everything else. You break your neck, you're done, a bone. I've seen guys in the backstage fighting over a spot, another guy using the ring, just change your spot. I've seen guys get drunk. I've seen guys injecting, for God's sakes. I won't bring the names up, you know, like steroids, for heaven's sakes. I was like looking, I was getting a real eyeful at times, you know. And you know how it goes. After the guys, some are they're drunker than can be. But yeah, I've seen fights. I've seen guys injecting drugs back there and popping pills. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm 55. I could care less. That is what I saw. And one thing I learned is sit on the card and be quiet and watch and observe and don't say too much. You know what I mean? And, you know, and you've seen people bicker and argue and scream and yell, and it's unfortunate, but they're human, right? They're under a lot of pressure. Put your spots together, go out and get it done. But I've seen I've seen people pull up, act a bigger spot than they are. I've seen some young guys talk to the big Fed boys and get told to shut up and everything and go, yeah, don't say much here.
I remember the first time I saw you wrestle was at the Ottawa Civic Center.
Yes.
It was part of the Super X. They had a big show there. I think it was in '96.
Yeah.
And they did an afternoon and a night show. Snuka was there. Volkov was there. The Metal Maniac. And I think
who else was there for that one? Bret Hart never showed up, remember?
Chief Jay Strongbow, I think.
Yeah,
it was about 3,000 or 4,000 for both shows because it was part of the admittance to get into the exhibition. So everyone came back in those days. We don't even have an exhibition here anymore.
Exactly.
But those have been some of the biggest crowds you wrestled in front of.
You know what? They were pretty big crowds, but when it got to medieval times, the numbers were almost double. But it was always the bigger the crowd, you know yourself, the easier it is to work, easier to get the heat, whatever you want to do. Once you get the people behind you, I mean, I've went and done shows. You've seen, man. Didn't do a whole lot. It's just a matter of, hey, get the crowd working behind you, right? And yeah, but I was there at the X and that. I got those two shows. It was like one of my, I had maybe 50 shows under my belt at the time, and so that time there, I got asked to go because I was a local guy, and I said, you know, we only got like $60 each for that show. I remember for each, like we got for each wrestling match, like we got 16, 60, 120 for the day. So you thought you were doing good, right, for what it was, and to be on a card like that was holy jeez. I was okay. This is great, and but then you started settling in quick after a while. What goes on, you know, and you start seeing, you know yourself. You see the stuff you know. I've had people say, man, I want to be a wrestler, and I tell kids, you know what, just go to school and get a good education. I mean, you're going to be in the long run probably further ahead, you know.
It's very hard to make a living in wrestling and promoting. I know you promoted a lot of years. You want to tell people about the company you had? It was on TV a bunch of times. You used guys like Dan Severn in it. I think you used Snuka on a show, the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah. Bastion Booger. Yeah. We had with the indies, we had Outaouais Professional Wrestling. And what it was, just even the trademark, that name at the time was $500 because everybody was using the same name, and everybody, you know, there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. So when you run shows, like you say, you know yourself, all the time you put in say $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. You got to start taking a look at numbers and how many people you have to come in just to break even. And that show in that particular time in Arnprior, that show we didn't break even. We pretty much, well, we had a good door. It was 500, I think it was 600 people, almost 600 or more. And I think we lost like 1,200 bucks. You know what I mean? It's like you say, you got to suck it up, man. I mean, and you might have a show where you make $200 or $300, or sure, you break even, but you don't make anything on all your time and effort running around and putting up posters. You know yourself, man. You got to go out there. Even when I ran shows that were out in Mattawa, Ontario, I was driving back and forth every week to make sure I was getting the numbers properly. And, you know, and the shows like in the middle of nowhere where I was making some money.
Yeah, if you divide the time up of the entire time you spend promoting an event by the hour, I guarantee you it's below minimum wage if you end up making anything.
Gas time, wear and tear, and the hours you put in, you go home and you're like, oh, then you got to go to the gym and train. Then you have to still train in the ring. And it's a 24-hour a day job. Then you still have a job you got to work at to make money. So and you're never stopping. Like you're always on a go. And it's just, you know, and yeah, it's difficult because you're eating junk food on the road, you know, yourself, drinking coffees. And I used to drink 8 large coffees a day, dude, when I was on the road sometimes. And when I first got a little cell phone, it was a little thing. I was getting phone calls to go to one gig to another sometimes, and places and parts in Ontario I'd never heard of. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, even did a couple of shows with what's that big bodybuilder? I mean, my brain has gone soft here. I can't think of them right now. It'll come to me. But even those type of shows, you're driving like 8, 9, 10 hours sometimes, you know. And then you get to a show, you've been to shows, you get there and they're canceled, and nobody called you. You're like, you know, and a whole bunch of you are sitting there, you know. Like Tony Atlas, I did a few shows for him. Good guy, with Steve Carino and those guys, Jason Knight, and you know, you go. I've seen a guy. We'd have to end up helping us set the rings up to get it ready. You've seen that, you know.
Weren't you at one point almost in ECW through Jason Knight? He was.
Yeah, at the time there was a thing going on. I was at the point. I was that close. I can't remember who the person was. We got a phone call, and my wife would know who it was at the time, and so we were asked to go there, and that's when the big OC Transpo disaster happened. Remember years ago, the big shooting? I was supposed to go with the Terry at the time, and I ended up finding out that he was actually my cousin. Well, what's the odds, right? And I said, dude, we have to go to this because this is a given. And I said, I know there's been a big shootout now. I know it's terrible, but man, like this is our chance. And we have a chance to hit the ECW. This is it. Like, and he never went. And I couldn't make it because of a few reasons, because of that too, with them. And after that, man, I was snowballed from them. Like, that was it. You're gone. You know what I mean? And just to get that chance there, you know how it is. If you say no and you can't, unless you're on another bunch of gigs and you can't make it, they understand. But they didn't look at that at the time. Yeah, they understood, but they weren't looking at that time for that reason. I remember that very well. So there's nothing I could do at the time, right? And you know.
Who have been some of the names we might recognize that you've found were dicks to you over the years?
I knew you were going to go here. Do I even mention the names to give them that time, like even on the videos right here on a TV?
If they're not famous, don't bother. But if they are famous, you can say their names.
I never. Was it Wendy Richter? She was a female one. I mean, she was very obnoxious and rude and ignorant. Not so much to me, but some of the people on the card. I can't remember the card, but most people I got along with okay. I just took them for a grain of salt and rolled them off my shoulders. I never really had anybody really give me a heavy, hard issue, really, in that aspect. I mean, other than your card, watching guys bicker at the back of times, but your guys get along. Great North Wrestling guys get along pretty good, and they're fine. We don't really have many problems back there. I mean, you had the auto scuffle. It's normal. A lot of testosterone's flowing around. You know what I mean? Beers are floating, and the guys are having fun until they get out there. But I haven't had, other than no-name guys, those are the ones that cost me a lot of issues. But as far as like the bigger names, the guys on the cards, I never really had a problem with them. Just don't get in their way. Hi, how are you? What's good to see you? Good to meet you. Leave that alone and let them respect you for who you are, and just don't get them angry and don't say stuff to them that you don't know anything about.
One of the bigger Great North Wrestling events back, I can't believe it's 10 years ago already, back in 2011, the first time we ever went to Smith Falls, Ontario, it was you against Greg Valentine in the main event, and I think there was almost 1,000 people there that night.
Yeah, there was.
Hard to believe it was 10 years ago almost, but Eddie
good old Greg.
With him.
The story with Greg was we were backstage there, and Greg, he sits there calm. We're just talking. It's okay. We'll do that. We'll start here. We'll go here. We'll go there. Okay. So we sat there. We waited, and I hear, okay, Bruiser, and I hear yelling, Greg. And that day I said, okay, let's go. I said, we went in there, but I didn't know that he couldn't run. And I didn't know. So I was working with him, and he's a good worker. You hear everything I said clear. Crowds are loud. But yeah, that was actually a good show, man. I bumped for him well. He actually thanked me in the back. Says, dude, man, you bumped good out there. He said, you sold me well. And, but other than that, yeah, I actually liked him for what it was. For what it was for me and in general. I know some other people have had issues with him, but in general. Oh, I thought of one thing about, you were talking about, I can't remember the guy's name, but I had Uruguay professional wrestling belts. Remember they had a bunch to me, and I had a guy that actually took them on me, and I never did get them back. And they were basically trademarked mine, and I paid for them, and I never got those belts back. And I'm still trying to locate where those belts are. Somebody somewhere in the Ottawa Gatineau area has to have these belts, and it's just a matter of time. I may never get them back, but I remember, like you say, certain people got a hold of them, and I never got them back. As you know, you trust somebody a little bit, and they'll step on you, right? I gave one chap one time, another name I won't mention. I gave him like $2,000. He said, I was working all the time, so I can go buy a wrestling ring for $2,000. I say, you sure? So I gave him $2,000. I'll tell you the story in this. And he'll hear it as he'll know who he is. And I gave him $2,000. He took the money. He took off to Toronto. He was going to get the wrestling ring. And what it truly was at the time, I think it was Scully's gym or something down there. He had a ring for sale. And this is where this guy knew this fella. And so the ring never came back, and he was screwing around with the money. I said, where's the money, dude? If you didn't buy the ring, where's the money? I guess he took me for a joke. And I was younger then. I was more aggressive. I was like maybe 32, 33. I was a little younger. And I remember, man, going to his door and banging on it and trying to get my money back. And I can remember him. I can see a shadow under the door, that little bit of a lip. I said, dude, you're in there. I want my money. I said, get my money back here. And people have to know this is how bad it can get sometimes, wrestling. I won't say what was going to happen to him, but I said, dude, get my money back to me or else. And what happened was his poor father, the gentleman he is, God bless his soul, he's died, and his parents were nice. He paid me the money back. His father gave me the money back. Can you imagine doing that to your family? Trusting the guy to go get a ring for $2,000 because until I built my own and went from there, right? And I just realized, I started seeing what this business was all about.
Yeah, and we won't get into this, but you actually spent some time in jail in your younger years. You're not a guy
badass
with in those days.
Yeah, I could tell that story. I'm just thinking of another story. I may get to that in a second. Yeah, man. I mean, when I was younger, I was a rebel, no doubt about it. Hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing stuff. And that's actually how I kind of got into wrestling, believe it or not, is when I did time in jail. I mean, I could get into it, but I mean, it's just dumb stuff. I was an idiot as a young fella doing stuff. Smartened up, mind you, when I got out of jail. That's how I actually got into wrestling, believe it or not. And it's funny. You take a look at a lot of pro wrestlers, good and bad, big stars, small stars, indie guys. It seems that not a lot of us, but a lot of us seem to get into some kind of trouble somewhere with the law. I don't know what that is. Or people get jealous of you. You know yourself how it goes, and they'll cause you issues. Sometimes they'll cause you issues you never even know anything about. I mean, I've been arrested for other people saying stuff I knew nothing about. I mean, I have friends of mine who can vouch to that, and just being jealous for whatever reason. And at the end of the day, we're the regular people too. We're skin and blood. We die the same way to everything else. We eat the same foods, and just that we're different theoretically in the inside, maybe outside a little bit, but we're the same. But people, yeah, they can cost you a lot of issues. And I'll tell you, man, I've done a few times in jail there for people that did nothing wrong. And at the end of the day, you really can't do much about it after. Oh, sorry, it was a mistake. Yeah, that's how I actually got into wrestling. Actually, I started into it because I figured that did to me. I used to watch it when I was in jail, right? I used to watch as a kid too. I said I can do that. When I got out, when I started learning, it was tough enough, but you had to be tough enough to hang in there 3 and 4 hour training sessions. You know what I mean? You know how it goes: the bumping, the slamming, just falling off the ropes, learning to take that and learn to run, the cardio, and the training, and the sore backs, the injured knees. You know what I mean? The injuries go on like forever. And then you just got to go back in and do it again and again and again, And when you have 30 guys in there and everybody's taking a turn body slamming you one after the other, I mean, you learn to bump and you learn to protect yourself pretty fast. You know what I mean?
Really. And we're going to get into some more of those stories, but we have a comedian that's going to join us now too.
Okay.
From Arkansas. Sleazy E is waiting to come on. and we're gonna bring him on, and he's gonna sing a couple wrestling comedy songs for us, and you're gonna give your critique of them, so we can let the producer bring on Sleazy E if he's still there. By the way, Bruiser, while we're waiting for him to pop on the screen, what's your Instagram name so people can?
Oh, it's at 613 Bruiser, and then this is my actual YouTube channel as well. And if you want to check out our new series, Ottawa ODDAWA, it'll be at the Subdivision Films on YouTube with Max. And we're going to probably put them in links later on below so people can check them out. Because you can say wrestlers are stuntmen, right, too? And one thing I've learned in some movies, I've done a few like sitcoms and that they hate wrestlers because we can do what stuntmen can do and do it better. They hate us. Trust me, I've went through that a couple times.
Sleazy has joined us here. Before we get into this, Sleazy, I'll just remind you, because I think I forgot to tell Bruiser we can't swear on this.
Sorry, dude.
It's not
totally cool. Totally cool.
So how are you doing tonight? Joining us from Arkansas.
Oh, man, I'm good. Hanging here in Arkansas. Not the best place, but not the worst place. Glad to be on here, man. I appreciate you giving me some time to talk to you and do my stuff.
Well,
like the accent, man.
It's warmer there than up in Canada, where Bruiser and I are, at least.
God, yeah. Well, around here they say wait 10 minutes and the weather will change. You know, if you don't like it, it will change within 10 minutes. So it can be hot one day, cold one day, rain one day, cats and dogs falling one day. You never know.
Well, Bruiser and I are going to give our opinions of your songs after you play them. So we'll let you jump into the first one right away. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it before you get into it.
All right, man. This first song is called Wrestling on the TV. Wrestling, you know, because from Arkansas. And that's just kind of how it's said. Wrestling. You get it. You get it.
They call it that in Texas, too, where I was just covering an event for SWE Fury. Wrestling, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The fans, they're wrestling. They're crazy. They're just crazy in the South. But this song's called Wrestling on the TV. And it's a story song, obviously. I know there's people that do a lot of the parody songs about wrestling. And those are fun and those are cool and this and that. But mine, it's more of a, you know, we all love wrestling and it can be a very sappy, pathetic thing what we'll put ourselves through to do it, you know? So, and obviously.
Yeah, I've seen your hardcore match pictures and I think you went a little bit overboard for however many fans were there that night.
Dude, the people around here, like, there's not very much hardcore, like, there's no death match. We'll have hardcore matches, but the skewers and the gusset plates really freaked some people out, man. They really, it was a little too far, but I appreciate that, seeing that pick. But yeah, so this is Wrestling on the TV. It's a saga about a man's journey in the wrestling business.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Smoking weed, drinking beer, wrestling on TV. I'm staying up late just watching WA. It's a work, it's a shoot, and you don't know what to do. All you know is that wrestling's in your veins. You learn to bump, hit the ropes, now you're behind the building, puffing on some dope. With the boys dreaming about being in the main. Now your whole body's got a constant throb, but you pay your dues and you stay in your lane. Promoter man said he'll give you a push on one condition: you feel on his tush. What can I say? If you want to win, play the game. Smoking weed, drinking beer, wrestling on TV. Staying up late just to watch NWA. Now you're not a vet, but you're not as great. You're lost somewhere in between, but you're making towns and some people who know your name. When a rat pats you on your back on the way to the ring, beating's not all that bad. So you work a name, have a match on local TV. Boy, you're moving fast, but you pay your dues. Stay in your lane. Now you're calling everybody brother, saying, Brady, brother, give me another. But this time, lay it in. Yeah, you've been in for 25 years. Can't work no more, brings you to tears. Grove was nice, but it came with a price. And you go to shows, you try and help out, but some dumbass greenhorns keep running their mouths saying how they don't wanna blame. When you tell them how it was back in your day, they start spreading rumors that you're gay. You tell them, boys, pay your dues and you stay in your lane. Now your mind goes back to hitting the mat, banging rats, puffing on fat. Duty brother, those sure were the days. Now through all the fun and all the pain, only one thing remains the same. I was smoking weed, drinking beer, wrestling on TV, staying up late just to watch NWA. There you go, boys.
That's pretty good, dude.
Thanks,
A lot
man.
better than me. A lot better than I could do, that's for sure.
Oh man, well, I'm not a good singer. I don't consider myself much of a musician, but it's all about if you like it and you put a little heart into it. I think people in wrestling, anything wrestling related, they're gonna dig it. So this is just, I would listen to it and laugh. But
It's exactly. Live in the moment, man. It's your moment. That's for sure.
I think you need some weed and beer for the wrestling that's on TV today.
Oh man, I
No,
laughed about that one.
It's a far cry from the NWA you sing about in there.
Oh well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's a smoky, romantic love of the NWA, the old school style. Because I grew up about an hour and a half from Memphis, so the Memphis wrestling style is just basically kind of what I grew up on, you know.
Yeah, you share a state with Sid.
Oh yeah, he's over there in West Memphis, I think, right? Mm-hmm.
How is the view over there of Sid? Is he loved? Because he kind of gets a bad rap, but people forget how over he was. They like to portray him that he wasn't over, but he was over like crazy.
Yeah, well, he was huge. Like he literally at the very, very top, you know. But around here, I've never heard anything bad about him. I know he's worked shows around here. I've never heard anything bad about
Yeah, I think he actually started a new gimmick around there that never went anywhere, but he had a mask on and was doing some stuff. His last match in Canada was actually for us up here in Great North Wrestling. If people search Sid, the Hannibal TV, we have a lot of content. I think Bruiser was actually on that same event.
Yeah.
Where Sid had his last match. I forget who you wrestled. It probably involved a table, since specialty is tables.
Yeah, I like them tables, man, for sure. Especially when they don't break.
What people don't know is they hurt a lot more when they don't break. You want the
bounce off them. You bounce off them, man. They don't break. Then you got to go one more time. What happens? You bounce off, and your whole body takes that jarring moment because you didn't break, and you're like, and you're shocked in front of 1,000, 1,500 people, you know?
Well, Sleazy, what do you have for us next?
All right, man. So the next song is called Mr. Promoter Man, Dear Mr. Promoter Man. And it's a, you know, it's always good, no matter what show you're on. Obviously, we're all glad to be there and this and that, but we've all talked to a promoter and was like, man, listen, I'll do whatever, you know, just I want to be on the show doing something. I want to do some type of job.
Whether it's jumping off a scaffold like Bruiser has done a few times, or pieces of wood to the head like you've done.
Oh yeah, hell of a job to like not beg for, but even ask to do, like, you know, to be tickled to do. So, Dear Mr. Promoter Man it's not a cry out to a promoter, but so we've all been to the show and we all know the guy that's sometimes he's at the ticket stand, sometimes he's behind the concession stand. There's the guy that's there the whole day, just there because he loves it, you know. And in my eyes, that's the retired job right there. Like, that's what I look forward to when and if I'm ever able to stop wrestling, you know. And so this is just kind of like it's a plea to the promoter man. I've been training in this business since I was 13. Worked the door, done security, and loved to referee. I even kept on training when they told me I was no good. Said I'd never be a wrestler, but I always knew I would. I never played much ball growing up. I sat at home watching Raw and Nitro while my family all got stoned. Dear Mr. Promoter Man, won't you book me for your show? I don't need a big PO, just a place to work, place to do my thing, and to get up in the ring, hear a crowd scream. I'll do anything. I need to bump and roll around, and to work that crowd will make it loud. Yeah, I need that buzz. Well, I ain't got six-pack abs and I ain't flippy, but I got some decent arms and I know how to get heat. I ain't no mark for going over or a belt. I'll show up to your show early and ask, how can I help? Dear Mr. Promoter Man, won't you book me for your show? I don't need a big PO, just a place to work, place to do my thing, and to get up in the ring, hear a crowd scream. I'll do anything. I need to bump and roll around, and to work that crowd, making it loud. Yeah, I need that buzz. There you go, boys.
You love that stuff, eh?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, great time.
It takes nerve, man, to get out there and sing like that. You say what you want. I mean, it doesn't matter how good or how bad you are. You're having fun, and it's not easy to get on there and sing in front of thousands of people. It's not. You know what I mean? And you know, I hear you, man. I know exactly where you're coming from. Like, you know, like even yourself or Devin will say, sometimes you go out into a crowd, and like sometimes Devin will say, you're in the first match out, brother. You got to get them moving for the house. And sometimes I'm on first match out, I got to get that house moving somehow. And I tell the guy, we got to get it moving. Once you get it moving, the rest of the guys will be fine. If you don't get that house moving, you're in trouble. You know, Devin knows what I mean.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's the craziest thing you've done for a promoter, Bruiser? Not necessarily even a promoter, but for the fans, because I know you've worked for me and you've gone and done things that I've never asked you to do.
Some things a young guys should be doing. What's the craziest thing for a promoter? Oh, dude, that's a good question.
What do you think about these young guys now? There's a lot of them that don't want to do anything, and a lot of them don't even have the look. At least Sleazy E, I mean, you might not have the look of the stereotypical 80s wrestler that people are going to turn their heads to watch, but you've done some stuff in your career to make yourself stand out, even though I really think you've gone overboard on some of the hardcore stuff. But
that's really cool. I appreciate that. And yeah, you got to find your end somehow. You got to find the end. And I'll look for it anywhere. So I started even doing these silly wrestling songs. I said, well, people aren't just going to stop and look at my matches. So maybe they'll think these songs are funny, or I can relate that and just kind of build more stuff. But I appreciate everything you guys are saying. Very grateful.
I've had a few small guys that have worked for Great North Wrestling that have said, for instance, I don't jump off the top rope. It's like I can jump off the top rope at 280 pounds. I've seen Fred do a leg drop off the top rope through a table. It's like some of these guys think it's just going to be handed to them no matter what they look like or how much effort they put into it. But you got to make yourself stand out. I've taken risks out there myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And like, there's a lot of guys that I saw along the way, because I just started wrestling. I had my first match about 2 years ago, but it was a big joke whenever I've started, or whenever I had my first match, because I've been training for over 10 years. And the thing is that there's a lot of guys, they will pay to get trained and they'll do whatever they got to do. And that's cool. And that's one road to get into it and blah, blah, blah. But like, I reffed, I announced, I did whatever I could. I wasn't particularly needed as a wrestler. It was more important that we had a referee every week. So I put that off.
Yep.
Even I wants to be that. And there's a lot of guys that just jump in and they don't even have a clue. And they don't, like, you're saying these guys don't want to do a whole lot in the ring.
You get those who go and wrestle, like say go training 5 or 6 times, and they're ready to go in the ring. I didn't step into the ring till 7 months after, with 3 hours a day average training, before I stepped into my first 3-minute match. 7 months, man. I was nervous. I got it. It went fine. But the point of the matter is, I've seen guys go in there. I've seen guys come in, Bruiser, I can't do this. Bruiser, I can't do that. What are you doing here? I don't know how to do a front bump or a front roll. Dude, you better learn, and you better learn quick, because I'm giving you a couple of basic little things. And then Devin knows that's when you can start beating up on the dummy in the ring. And I've seen guys with their pants falling down. Devin remembers that one guy, the pants kept falling down?
I've seen people with their pants falling down surprisingly numerous times over the years. And that just seems to, I know who you're talking about, Bruiser.
Yeah, remember that?
It's hilarious. Put some damn pants on them.
You were at the match that was over in Metcalf where the referee threw up over the ring? Were you there?
I don't think I saw that one. No.
Yeah, I slipped in the guy's vomit. We were trying to run around, me and Prototype. We were trying to avoid the vomit. It was gross. Anyway, we did okay for what it was. But yeah, I've seen some strange things go on, man. And I mean, there's no doubt about it. And shake my head and go, wow,
And Sleazy E, before you play us out, where can people follow you if they want to look you up and listen to some more of your songs or follow you as a referee?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got a Twitter, and it's Sleazy E10 at Sleazy E10, SLEEZYE 10, Sleazy E10, and then Sleazy E Wrestling on YouTube. Those are my 2 main things right there, and you can get a hold of me on there and find the latest, not so greatest, but that's where you can find me. Sleazy 10 on Twitter, Sleazy Wrestling on YouTube, and hopefully you'll find me at a damn show before long, because I haven't really been working since the quarantine happened. I've stopped by a few shows, watched the show, watched some of my boys wrestle and shit like that, but stuff like that. Unless
you live in Texas or Florida these days, it's very hard to get wrestling gigs.
Absolutely. But hopefully I'll be around the ring here soon, but that's where you can find me and all that. And I seriously just want to tell you guys, thanks for having me on.
It's good meeting you.
Yeah,
It was
very
fun, actually.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you guys at least got a laugh out of it. It's totally worth it for me. The fact that you guys even got a chuckle out of it. I appreciate it very much.
And
Dude, you're humble. That's good.
Thank you.
And knowing that you've done referee jobs, I also want to say, like, there's been some wrestlers over the years that haven't necessarily been that good and have been smaller in size. And I've said, well, tell you what, come to the events. I'll pay you to be a referee on the card, but bring a mask and another gimmick. And if someone doesn't show up, we can use you as a wrestler. And so many are too arrogant, and they, no matter what, do not want to be a referee, even though you learn from being in there as a referee, particularly with the veterans. So just for anyone watching out there that might fit that description, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a referee when you're starting out with a second gimmick in your bag in case a spot opens up. Because I think we all know for independent shows, there's always spots that open up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one of the best things about reffing. There's so many shows that I worked as a referee that I really don't think I would have ever got booked to wrestle on. And I love reffing. It's one of my favorite things. You learn stuff. You work with so many different people. And if you are a student of the game, it's the thing to do.
I've actually seen referees in the ring sometimes when you get lost, you get a heavy match, they'll come in and make a simple call to you, ask you how you're doing it, and tell you guys you got a minute and a half, wrap it up. They'll come in and tell you, you know where your match is, and and they will help you sometimes, help keep the crowd watching them, watching you, and so yeah.
A bad referee, if there's two novice guys in the ring and the referee is also novice, that's a recipe for disaster. But if you have a referee in there, they can some of the time save the match. I find.
Absolutely.
Just being an editor, Bruiser, is there anything you want to say before Sleazy E is going to play us off the air here? Is there anything you want to say before we close up?
Well, I want to thank everybody who come to Hannibal Pro Wrestling and on your YouTube and watching, because you've done so well. And I want to say something else people don't know, or maybe they do know. I remember years ago when you were like really sick in that, and I remember you hanging in there, working on your YouTube, work on your Instagram, man, right to the bitter end. And I'm not going to tell everybody, man. I've known Devin a long time as a kid. I remember meeting him at MMA. We had a lot of fun there, too. I used to beat everybody up, Devin and me, man. There was nobody could take me and Devin out in no group ever. Nobody, as far as on the practice. But I remember watching Devin, literally, folks dying. And I remember saying to my buddy of mine, it's terrible. There's nothing you can do. I said, I hope they come up with a cure. And, if anybody deserves a good clap, it's actually Hannibal, man. You've come through it. I've seen it. I watched it. It was terrible. And when I finally got cured, man, for me, I was like, hats off for everything you've done for the indies from wrestling. And you've done good for everybody, man. Not everybody has liked everybody, but you've done a fine job, man. I just want to give you congrats on that,
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And I suggest people look him up, Bruiser 613, and follow him, what he's up to. And we'll catch up with you again sometime, I'm sure. Bruiser, Sleazy, are you going to do this last one for us while you're on that treadmill behind you?
Absolutely. This last song I got is it's a tribute song to the one and only Tracy Smothers.
There is a 4.5-hour interview with him on the Hannibal TV, by the way.
Absolutely. It's usually up on my recommended every time, no matter what. Even though I've been through it, it'll still pop up. But yeah, this song's for Tracy Smothers, and that's about it. So I'm going to play this one, and again, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Hope everybody had a good time, and here we go. Tracy learned to wrestle down in the South, where a wild-eyed boy can run free. He's tough and can talk. He had a wrestling mind. Pro wrestler he'd always be. People say the wrestling ain't no way to spend a life. You ain't never gonna make a living. Said teas were terrible.